Find the length AB. So we're trying to find this length here. It is important to identify if we're trying to find the hypotenuse or another side. The hypotenuse is the longest side of a triangle, and it's always opposite the right angle. This is the right angle here. And this is going to be the hypotenuse, the side AB, so I'm going to label that as H. So when we have a right angle triangle, and we're trying to find a missing side or a missing length, we're going to use Pythagoras' theorem. And Pythagoras' theorem is h squared equals a squared plus b squared, where h stands for the hypotenuse. But in our formula book, it's written as c squared equals a squared plus b squared. So we have c squared equals a squared plus b squared, where the c is the hypotenuse, which is the longest side. So we need to label our sides of our triangle. It doesn't matter which way we label the a and the b, because we're going to be squaring them and adding them together. So I'm going to label the 16 as the a and the 12 as the b. Okay, and our unknown side, called AB, has been labelled as H, representing the hypotenuse, but I'm also going to label it as C. Depending on which formula we use, we can label it as C or as H, so I'm going to label it as both. So we have H squared equals A squared plus B squared. The A is 16 and the B is 12, but again, we could have labelled them the other way around. So we're going to put these values into the equation and then we're going to solve. So we have a squared becomes 16 squared and b squared becomes 12 squared. And h squared just stays as it is because we don't know what the value represents yet. So 16 squared is 256 and 12 squared is 144. Add them together to get 400. So we have h squared equals 400, but we need to get the h on its own, which means we need to get rid of the squared part. So what happens is the squared comes over the equal sign and turns into square root. So h is going to be the square root of 400, and the square root of 400 is 20. Therefore, the length of AB is 20 centimetres. So the length of this line is 20 centimetres. Which of the following triangles are right angle triangles? And the triangles are not drawn to scale. So triangle 1 has a hypotenuse of 89 and the other two sides are 39 and 80. Triangle 2 has a hypotenuse of 64 and the other sides are 16 and 60. If a triangle is right angled, then c squared, so its hypotenuse squared, must equal a squared plus b squared. So we must first identify which side we will use as the hypotenuse. So the hypotenuse being the longest side. The hypotenuse is always the longest side. Once we have identified one side as the hypotenuse, we call the other two sides A and B, and it doesn't matter which is A and which is B. So triangle number 1, C is going to be 89 because this is the longest side. So C squared is equal to 89 squared, which is going to be 7,921. So if the triangle is right-handed, then a squared plus b squared will also equal 7,921. So I'm going to label 80 as A. So we have a squared being 80 squared, which is 6,400. And I'm going to label 39 as B. So we have b equals 39, so b squared equals 39 squared, which equals 1,521. I'm going to add these two together to get 7,921, which is what we got for c squared. Therefore, triangle 1 is a right angle triangle. So now I'm going to do the same with triangle 2. I need to identify the longest side, which is going to be 64. So that's going to be the c. C is equal to 64. So c squared is going to be 64 squared, which is 4,096. So a squared plus b squared should be equal to 4,096 if the triangle has a right angle. So I'm going to label the 60 as A. So I have A equals 60, so A squared equals 60 squared, which equals 3,600. I'm going to label the 16 as B. So b is equal to 16, so b squared is equal to 16 squared, which is equal to 256. I'm going to add these two together to get 3,856. And 3,856 is not equal to 4,096, so triangle 2 is not a right angle triangle. Find the value of x and y in the diagram, leaving your answer in surd form where necessary. So we have two triangles stuck together. The triangle on the left has a hypotenuse of 14, a base of 12 and a height of x. And the triangle on the right has a height of x, a base of root 12 and a hypotenuse of y. So we're going to start off by finding x, and notice that x is a common side to both triangles. So if we just focus on the left triangle, so if we draw it out separately over here, we have a hypotenuse of 14, a base of 12 and a height of x. So we have a right angle triangle and we're trying to find an unknown side, so we're going to use Pythagoras' theorem. So Pythagoras' theorem is h squared equals a squared plus b squared, or in our formula book it's c squared equals a squared plus b squared. So the c represents the hypotenuse, as does the h, and the a and the b represent the other sides. So I'm going to label my triangle. So the 14 is going to be the c or the h. I'm going to label it as both. And I'm going to label the b as 12, or the 12 as b. And the x is the unknown side, and that's the only one that's left, so I'm going to label that as a. So we start off by writing out our formula, Pythagoras' theorem, and you can use either c squared equals a squared plus b squared, or h squared equals a squared plus b squared. Our given values, we have h to be 14, or you could call c is 14, and we have b to be 12. We put these values into the equation, so the h squared becomes 14 squared, the a squared can just stay as a squared, or you could call it x squared, and the b squared is 12 squared. And then we just have to solve for a. So 14 squared is 196, and 12 squared is 144. We're going to bring the 144 over the equal sign, it becomes minus 144. And 196 minus 144 is 52. So 52 is equal to a squared. So a is going to be equal to the square root of 52. So what we did was we put the values into the equation. We then got the unknown on one side, so the a being the unknown, and everything else onto the other side, so all the numbers over the other side. And we left a in surd form, unless told otherwise. So that means if they specifically say to round off to 2 decimal places or something like that, then you can get a decimal and round it off. But otherwise you can just leave it in surd form. So therefore x is equal to root 52. So x is equal to root 52. So now we just have to find y. Okay, so to find y, I'm going to draw out my other triangle separately as well. So I have a hypotenuse of y, a base of 12, and now I know that x is root 52, so I have a height of root 52. So again, I have a right angle triangle, and I'm trying to find one of the sides, so I'm going to use Pythagoras' theorem. So again, I have h squared equals a squared plus b squared, or I can use c squared equals a squared plus b squared. Either way, I'm going to label my triangle. So my longest side is going to be the h or the c. I'm going to label root 52 as a, and I'm going to label root 12 as b. So I write out Pythagoras' theorem, h squared equals a squared plus b squared. Write down the given values, so a is equal to root 52, and b is equal to root 12. I put these values into the equation and I simplify. So I can keep my hypotenuse as y if I want and have y squared, or I can leave it as h squared, it doesn't matter. So then I'm going to have root 52 squared plus root 12 squared. Root 52 squared, well, the root and the squared cancel and just give us 52. And root 12 squared, well, the root and the squared cancel and just give us 12. 52 plus 12 is 64, so h squared is equal to 54. So then we have to find the square root. So the squared comes over the equal sign, becomes square root. So h equals the square root of 64, so h is equal to 8. So therefore y is equal to 8. So our y value is equal to 8. And our x value that we found in part 1 was equal to root 52.